My boyfriend left me over a few TikToks, and now everyone's acting like I'm the monster. Okay, someone please tell me if I'm going crazy. My boyfriend, well, now ex-boyfriend of 4 years, Zane, just packed his bags and left me. And the reason he gave me, the reason he threw away 4 years of our lives. A few posts I made on social media. I'm not even kidding. A couple of funny, relatable videos about him not doing his share of the housework, and suddenly I'm the villain. He just walked out, no huge fight, no screaming. Just this dead, quiet finality that's making my skin crawl. He's being so unbelievably dramatic about this whole thing, and honestly, I feel like I'm the one who's owed an apology. It was just a joke, right? It can't be that serious, it just can't be. We were, the perfect couple. Seriously, everyone said so. Our friends, my family, the random old ladies at the farmer's market. On my feed, we were golden. I'm talking sunset pictures from a trip to Italy, cozy Sunday mornings with fancy coffee I'd learned to make, him surprising me with flowers just because. He was always so supportive of my whole social media thing, my brand, as I jokingly called it. He was the one behind the camera for half my outfit posts, the one who'd wait patiently, without a single complaint, while I took 100 pictures of our brunch before he was allowed to take a bite. He was sweet, stable, and honestly the kind of guy you build a life with, but he had this one thing, this quirk that I could never quite wrap my head around. He was intensely private. Like old school, doesn't even have his birthday on Facebook private. He shared things with me, of course, but the idea of broadcasting his life to the world made him physically uncomfortable. He hated being the center of attention, and he especially hated being made fun of, even in what I thought was a loving way. His family had this running gag about a terrible bowl cut he got in middle school. There's this one awful photo. And even now, at 28, if someone brought it up at Christmas, he wouldn't laugh along. He'd just go quiet, not angry, just gone. He'd retreat into himself, and the light would just go out of his eyes for a little while. I remember asking him about it once after his uncle waved the photo around. We were driving home, and he was so quiet. I poked him like, "It's just a haircut, babe, it's funny," and he just shook his head, staring at the road. He said, "It's not about the haircut, Nova. It's about feeling like a joke. It's about people taking a piece of you that you didn't offer up and passing it around for their own entertainment." I thought he was being so incredibly dramatic. "But they're your family, they love you," I said. He just replied, "That doesn't make it okay." I guess I heard him, but I didn't really listen. To me, it was just a sensitivity, a hang up in a world that was all about sharing. My whole life, or at least the version of it I was curating online, was about being relatable and open. His need for privacy felt like a barrier to that. It felt outdated. I'd tease him about it, call him an old man, and he'd just give me this look and say, "Nova, please." Not everything is for public consumption, some things are just for us. And I'd agree, but in my head I was thinking, but the boring stuff is for us. The funny, messy, relatable stuff. That's content. It was a line I knew existed, I just never, ever believed he'd actually hold me to it. I thought it was drawn in sand, not carved in stone. It all started so innocently, that's the worst part. It wasn't some grand plan to humiliate him. I was just creating content. It started with a picture. Just a simple, stupid shot of a pair of his socks, balled up and left on the floor maybe 2 feet from the laundry basket. It was a classic man-child moment. I posted it on my story with a poll. Am I dating a man or a giant toddler? Faced with tears of joy, the response was insane. It was like a switch flipped. My DMs, which were usually just a few close friends, flooded with hundreds of messages from other women. "OMG, same, girl, I feel your pain. At least yours are in the same room as the basket." It was this instant, powerful rush of connection, of validation. It was a dopamine hit better than any shopping spree. My follower count, which had been stuck in the low thousands for months, jumped by a few hundred in a single day. I'd struck gold. So I did it again and again. I started seeing our apartment not as a home, but as a content farm. A picture of the sink piled high with his coffee mugs, captioned, "He's an artist and his medium is dirty dishes." A photo of the towel he'd left on the bed, "His contribution to the laundry pile is abstract." Each post performed better than the last. People were loving it, it became my niche. I was the relatable girlfriend patiently navigating life with her lovable but clueless boyfriend. It was a role, and honestly, I was getting really good at playing it. Then I moved on to video. It felt like the natural next step. The first one was just a quick clip. I was filming myself doing a get ready with me video, talking about my day, and in the background, you could see Zane, completely absorbed in his video game, headphones on, with a little pile of snack wrappers next to him on the couch. On a whim, I put that goofy, upbeat clown music over the clip of him, zoomed in, and added the text, Me explaining my complex emotional needs versus him and the boys fighting a dragon. It blew up, I mean truly blew up, 50,000 views overnight. The comments were wild. This is my life, the way he's so focused Elmao, divorce him lol, stay strong queen. I was giddy reading them out loud to my friends on FaceTime, all of us screaming with laughter. I showed it to Zayn that night, expecting him to at least crack a smile. I held the phone out, beaming. Look, babe, we went viral. He watched it once. Then he watched it again, his face completely blank. He handed the phone back to me. You posted this? He asked, his voice flat. I was still buzzing from the likes, so I was all breezy and dismissive. Yeah, it's hilarious. People love it. It's just a joke. Don't be so serious. He kept looking at me with this unreadable expression. I don't think it's funny, he said. I feel like a caricature. Then he just got up, walked into the bedroom, and closed the door. It didn't slam, it just clicked. The sound was so quiet, but it felt deafening. I stood there for a minute feeling a prickle of something. Annoyance mostly, why couldn't he just be a good sport? I rolled my eyes and went back to my phone, my fingers flying as I replied to comments, telling everyone how he was a big baby sometimes, but I love him really. I convinced myself that his reaction was just part of the act. He didn't get it, he didn't understand that this was my thing now. The validation from thousands of strangers felt so much louder, so much more important than the quiet, wounded silence from the other side of the door. The tipping point came when I hit 10,000 followers. To me, it was a huge milestone. It felt real, like I was finally a proper creator. I wanted to do something special to celebrate, something that would guarantee even more engagement. That's when the idea for the video hit me. It felt brilliant, a perfect culmination of my whole relatable girlfriend series. I'd call it a day in the life with my roommate boyfriend. For a whole week, I was a detective in my own home. I filmed everything, the wet towel on the bed, the empty milk carton put back in the fridge, the way he left his shoes right in the middle of the hallway for me to trip over. I got a clip of him trying to cook, getting flour absolutely everywhere, and then just abandoning the mess. Each clip felt like a little nugget of comedic gold. I spent hours editing it all together, choosing the perfect, most pathetic-sounding sad violin music for the background. I added captions like 9 a.m., discovers his latest art installation over the kitchen mess, and 7 p.m., engages in his most important work over a shot of him playing on his Switch. The final product was, I'll admit it, it was brutal. It wasn't just a gentle ribbing anymore. It was a meticulously crafted 30-second character assassination. It painted him as a completely useless, lazy, inconsiderate man-child, and me as the saintly, exhausted woman who had to put up with him. I watched it back a dozen times, and the only thing I felt was pride. This, I thought, was my masterpiece. I posted it on a Friday night. The reaction was immediate and overwhelming. It was my most successful video by a mile. The comments were a tidal wave of sympathy for me and derision for him. Girl, you deserve better. This isn't a boyfriend, it's a project. The bar is literally on the floor. I was glued to my phone, my heart pounding with every new like, every new comment. I felt seen, I felt popular. I felt for a moment like I was on top of the world. I was so wrapped up in the glow of the screen that I barely even registered Zayn coming home from his late shift at the hospital where he works as a physical therapist, literally helping people learn to walk again. He was exhausted. He walked in, dropped his keys in the bowl, and I just held up my phone, grinning. We did it, I said. 10,000. He didn't even look. He just walked past me and into the shower. He didn't bring it up that night or the next morning. I almost thought I'd gone away with it. I thought maybe he hadn't seen it, or if he had, he'd finally decided to just let it go. The silence was thick, though. It wasn't a comfortable, lazy Saturday morning silence. It was a heavy, suffocating blanket of unspoken words. I tried to act normal, making coffee and chattering about my plans for the day, but my words just seemed to get absorbed by the quiet. He just gave one-word answers, his eyes fixed on his phone, but not in his usual scrolling way. He was just staring at it. Finally, that afternoon, he turned off the TV and looked at me. He sat on the armchair opposite the couch where I was curled up, creating a formal, deliberate distance between us. He didn't look angry. That's what was so terrifying. He looked hollowed out. All the warmth and humor I loved about him was just gone, replaced by a deep, profound exhaustion that seemed to settle in his bones. My mom called me this morning, he said, his voice perfectly level, it didn't waver. She was concerned. One of her friends from her book club, a woman I've known since I was 5, sent her the video. My blood ran cold. The phone in my hand suddenly felt like a lead weight. Oh, Zayn, I didn't think she would see it. I can explain. He held up a hand, not to be aggressive, but just to stop the flood of excuses he knew was coming. It gets worse, he said, his voice still unnervingly steady. I went in for my shift this morning for a few hours. One of the new residents, a kid, maybe 22 years old, pulled me aside in the break room. He had his phone out and he was laughing. He said, "Zane, you gotta see this. This is totally my buddy's girlfriend." He showed me a hilarious video he'd seen. "It was yours." He paused, and his eyes finally met mine, and they were filled with a kind of weary pain I'd never seen before. He didn't know it was me, of course. He just thought it was funny. He and the other aides were passing it around, laughing about the clueless boyfriend. I opened my mouth, but no sound came out. I could picture it perfectly. The bright, sterile break room, the smell of antiseptic, and the sound of them laughing at him. "You're not just making jokes, Nova," he said, and his voice was so calm it was chilling. "You're publicly shaming me. You're taking the most private parts of our life together, the little imperfections and frustrations that every couple has, and you're broadcasting them to strangers for their entertainment. You've turned our home into a stage, and you've made me into the clown. You took my dignity," he said, his voice finally cracking just a little, the first sign of the emotion simmering beneath the surface, "and you traded it for likes. For fucking likes from people you will never meet." "It's not like that," I pleaded, my voice sounding shrill and desperate even to my own ears. "You're being too sensitive. It's just content, it's not real life." "It is real life," he shot back, his voice finally rising. "My mom thinks our relationship is a joke, my coworkers see me as a punchline. That is my real life, and you did that." He stood up then, the movement sharp and final. The look on his face wasn't anger anymore, it was clarity, a horrible, devastating clarity. "I can't live like this. I can't live with someone who doesn't respect me, let alone love me. We're done." He wasn't bluffing. The next day, while I was at work, he came with his brother and moved all his stuff out. I came home to an apartment that was half empty and fully silent. His side of the closet was a cavern. The bathroom counter felt huge with only my things on it. His favorite coffee mug was gone. He'd even taken the ugly armchair he loved so much. He left his key on the kitchen counter, right next to a perfectly stacked, clean pile of his mail. It was so methodical, so final, and he had blocked me everywhere. My number, Instagram, Facebook, even Venmo. It was like I had been surgically removed from his life. I completely fell apart. For the first 2 days, I was a wreck of frantic, unsent text messages and tearful voicemails that I knew he'd never hear. Then the anger set in. How could he do this? How could he be so cold, so absolute? I needed someone to validate my side of the story, to tell me he was the one who was overreacting. I called Jess, my best friend, expecting a full-throated, "he's a monster" session of solidarity. I launched into the whole story, framing it just right, emphasizing how small my crime was and how huge his reaction was. I was ranting, crying, pacing my half-empty living room. When I finally ran out of steam, there was just silence on the other end of the line. "Jess," I said, my voice trembling. "Are you there?" "Yeah," she said, her voice was weird, gentle, hesitant. "I'm here." "Well, say something, don't you think he's being insane?" There was another long pause. When she finally spoke, her words were chosen so carefully, it was like she was navigating a minefield. "Nova, honey, I love you, you know that," but she took a deep breath. "Honestly. That last video it was a lot. I saw it when you posted it and I cringed. It felt really mean. It wasn't funny mean, it was just cruel." I didn't know what to say. Her words hit me like a slap in the face. I was expecting a teammate, a co-conspirator. Instead, I got this gentle, awkward, pitying truth. It wasn't the angry condemnation I could have fought against. It was worse. It was the quiet, uncomfortable confirmation that maybe the thousands of strangers on the internet were wrong, and the one person who was supposed to be in my corner saw it the same way Zane did. For the first time, a tiny, terrifying crack appeared in the fortress of my self-righteousness. The next week is a blur. I tried to go back to my online persona. I even filmed a few stories, talking in that upbeat, chipper voice I always use, acting like nothing was wrong. But it felt hollow. The validation I got from the comments and likes felt like empty calories. It didn't fill the gaping, silent hole Zane had left in my apartment and in my life. Then last night, I hit a new low. I was supposed to have a video call with a few other creators I'd become friendly with online. Girls who also posted about their boyfriends and their messy lives. I put on makeup for the first time in days, set up my ring light, and pasted a huge smile on my face. "Hey girls," I chirped, trying to sound like my old self. "Nova, we were just talking about your video, epic stuff," one of them said. "My boyfriend would literally kill me if I posted something like that. You're so brave." And I just played along. I laughed and said, "Oh, you have to keep them on their toes." And then the words just tumbled out of my mouth before I could stop them. "Actually, speaking of, we broke up, so you know what that means." My next big piece of content is going to be Goodbye Loser X Hello Hot Girl Summer. It's gonna be huge. They all cheered and clapped, telling me how amazing that was, how I was a content queen and an icon. They were celebrating my pain, turning my heartbreak into another product to be consumed. And I was letting them, I was encouraging them. The call ended and I clicked the red Leave Meeting button. The screen went black, reflecting my own face back at me. The smile was gone. The chipper energy evaporated, leaving a crushing emptiness in its place. My perfectly lit room felt like a cold, lonely stage. My eyes scanned the empty space where his armchair used to be, and then landed on the laundry basket. On top, peeking out, was an old, faded gray t-shirt of his that must have gotten missed in the Exodus. It was his favorite, the one he always wore to sleep. I walked over to it, my legs feeling like lead, and picked it up. I buried my face in it, and it still smelled faintly of him, of his soap, and that clean, warm scent that was just Zayn. And I just sank to the floor, clutching that stupid t-shirt, and finally, I let myself sob.